Albert de Salvo was born in Chelsea, Massachusetts on September 3, 1931, to Frank and Charlotte de Salvo. His father was a violent alcoholic that abused his wife. He also forced his children to watch him have sex with prostitutes he brought home. These factors are what may have been what contributed to de Salvo's sadistic behavior. De Salvo began torturing animals as a child and began shoplifting and stealing. In November 1943, 12-year-old De Salvo was first arrested for battery and robbery. He was in jail twice as a teen. Later, he signed up for the army, and when he became short of cash, he began his measuring man crimes. Going up to women as posing as a talent scout, he took their measurements, and at the same time fondled them. No charges were made despite complaints, since no violent assault had occurred. On March 17, 1960, he was again arrested for burglary, when he then confessed to the measuring man crimes. He was then sent to prison for 11 months. After he left prison, he was driven by sexual frustration. He adopted more aggressive, violent roles. De Salvo then launched a 2-year rampage of sexual assaults that claimed victims in Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Hampshire, and Rhode Island. He wore green clothing while he committed these crimes, and raped as many as 6 women a day. While police throughout New England sought the Green Man, Boston Homicide was stalking an elusive killer, blamed for the deaths of 11 women between June 1962 and January 1964. In every case, women had been raped, sometimes with a foreign object, and their bodies laid out in the nude. Death was always due to strangulation, and the ligature was left around their necks and tied with an exaggerated ornamental bow. Anna Sellers, of 55, had been the first to die, strangled with a cord of a bathrobe on June 14, 1962. The killer seemed to break his pattern of older white women when he killed a young black woman named Sophia Clark on December 5, 1962. Another victim, Beverly Seman, was stabbed 22 times before the looping of the traditional nylon stocking around her neck was placed. The final victim was found on January 4, 1964. Mary Sullivan was strangled with a scarf and the shaft of a broomstick protruding from her. The police sought help of a psychiatrist to help make a profile of this serial killer. Dr. James Brussel provided a psycho-fit. It was a 30-year-old man, strongly built, of average height, clean-shaven, and possibly of Spanish or Italian origin. On the last crime that the Boston Strangler tried to commit was on October 27, 1964, posing as a detective. The intruder tied his victim to the bed, sexually assaulted her, and then inexplicably said while leaving, "I'm sorry." On November 3rd, De Salvo was hauled in for questioning on rape charges, after one of the Green Man's victims gave a police description strongly resembling the Measuring Man. De Salvo's confession to a long series of rapes landed him in Bridgewater State Hospital, committed for observation. While being held in the hospital, it was when Alberto De Salvo confessed in detail to the Strangler's crimes. He knew a lot of the very significant details from the crime that only the killer would know. Nevertheless, there was not one single piece of direct evidence to support these claims. De Salvo's attorney agreed that his client should stand trial, but only for a number of earlier crimes unconnected with the stranglings. Alberto De Salvo never stood trial for the crimes of the Boston Strangler, but was instead convicted of robbery and sexual offenses and sent to life in prison. On November 26, 1973, Alberto De Salvo was found dead in his cell, stabbed through the heart. He was 42 years old. What type of killer? Alberto De Salvo was a serial killer and rapist that murdered young women over a long period of time. Motives. De Salvo had an unusual sexual appetite at a very young age that would later drive him to kill.